Hey everybody, so today I am here to talk to you guys the 15 most frequently asked questions about exclusively pumping. Now I had you guys choose between this video or misconceptions about exclusively pumping, and this barely won, so that's the reason why I'm putting this one up first. But make sure you follow me over on Instagram if you guys want to vote and help choose what videos I record, because that's going on over there. And I have more specific videos for each question, and what I'm going to do down in the drop box is I'm going to put the question and I'm going to put a corresponding video, if I have one, below it. That way you guys can go watch a full video if you want some lengthy answers or stuff that has a little bit more substance behind it, because I'm going to be answering these, but I'm going to fire through them. The first question is, how do I know I'm empty? And basically you want to check for no hard spots, you want your boobs to be nice and squishy, and you want slow rolling beads whenever you are pumping. That is how you know you are empty. The next question is, trying to pump until empty, but I'm getting slow moving beads of milk. That is completely normal. That is going to signify, along with squishy boobs that don't have any hard spots and it doesn't feel like you're engorged, that's going to signal that you are in fact as close to empty as possible. We are never bone dry, so we're constantly making milk, so those slow moving beads make sense. Next up is, how do you find time for pumping? And the simplest answer for this is you make time for pumping. You're never going to find spare time, especially as a mom. You are not going to find just a chunk of time that's like, oh, here, you don't have anything to do. There you go. You know, that's never going to happen. You have to make the time to pump. It's going to come down to you revolving your life around your pump schedule. The next question is, I thought you can't keep up a supply with only pumping, and that is completely false. As long as you are efficiently, thoroughly, and regularly removing milk from your breast, whether it's through baby or pump, you have an adequate supply, as long as there's just like no other factors. There might be other things that happen that don't necessarily have to do with pumping. Like, it's just like, if you're doing everything right and you're still running into a low supply issue, that's not because you're exclusively pumping and not nursing. It probably means that you have an underlying issue going on. The next question, and by far the most asked for myself personally, just with everyday life, is why people choose to exclusively pump. And this is a question that really has no end in answers. It's whatever that mom wants it to be. Honestly, I don't think that there's anything wrong with people being curious and asking why, but at the same time, I don't think anybody owes anybody an explanation for what they try to do. You know, if a mom chooses exclusively pumps, it can be as simple as that. She's just choosing to. For myself, personally, I prefer it over nursing. There's a lot of other little reasons that go into that, but that's what it boils down to. There's people who have premature babies or babies with some kind of bodily defect that might inhibit them from being able to nurse. There's people who have had sexual abuse, or they are going back to work and they would just rather exclusively pump. There's an endless amount of reasons. And honestly, anymore, I think it's just becoming a more viable option for a lot of moms that might be in a hard place that either can't or don't want to nurse. This is an option that's for them. And now that there is actual information out there, there's a lot of talk about it, there's support groups, it's not so super uncommon. I feel like a lot of women are just turning to it because of that. It's just an option for them. And that's what it comes down to. It's basically the mom choosing to do what she feels best, and that happens to be exclusively pumping. The next question is how much suction to use. And with this, I would just urge you to be careful because everybody's completely different. You're going to have one mom say, oh, I crank the pump up completely. And there's going to be someone who's like, I can barely turn the sucker on. So you're just going to have to find what works for you. I would encourage you to start very low. And you want to find this nice little middle ground of it drawing out milk and it being effective at emptying you, but not at all should you be in pain. So it's a nice little dance between those two, because it's a fine line and you can find that you're in pain. And if you find that, just try to slowly decrease it and find where you're not so much in pain, and watch and make sure that the pump's emptying you. Of course, you don't want to just rely on the pump. You want to use hand-on massaging. You could use a warm compress, like help things, you know, like the pump doesn't have to do all the work. So if you encourage it, that should also help too. The next question is, how will breast milk adapt to a baby without bringing them to the breast? And that's pretty simple. You know, sloppy baby kisses and skin to skin, stuff like that is going to do the same thing as baby being at breast. You know, so an exclusively pumping mom is not missing out on that. However, if mom feels like, I don't get extra sloppy kisses, or, they're not doing a ton of skin to skin. You can also just take your baby's saliva on your skin and rub it around your nipple. It's as simple as that. It doesn't matter which one you choose, just as long as you're doing one of them, it is going to signal to your body what your baby needs, and you're going to be good. The next question is, I'm pumping but no milk is coming out. What do I have to do? And that could be a number of different things. You could have the wrong flange size, you could not be using the correct amount of suction, the pump parts might not be on correctly, so you want to double check your assembly, make sure that's good. There might be a problem with the pump if you've checked all those options. In that case, you want to call customer service. You could also just need a little help getting a letdown, and like I said, you want to use hand-on massaging, a warm compress, look at pictures of your baby, even a video, stuff like that. Try to relax. I know it's hard. Don't look at the bottles, things like that. There's a lot of different factors that play into that one, but I would start with those. Next question is, how do I get a breast pump? Now, I live in the United States, so I can only speak to fellow Americans here. I'm not sure what other countries' takes are on getting a breast pump. If you know, I would list it down in the comments below so it can help mamas who are in other countries. But as far as the United States go, I would highly recommend going through Aeroflow. They are great. I will have that link down below for you guys. They by far and away are the easiest way to get a breast pump. Basically, they do all the heavy lifting. I'll link videos explaining exactly what they do. There's just a lot of back and forth that, like I said, Aeroflow takes care of, so I would recommend going with them. But if you want to do it the other way, it's just basically coming down to getting a prescription for a breast pump from your healthcare provider. The second most question that I get asked is, what breast pump do I choose? And again, this is not going to be like a cut and dry answer. I'm going to link a video specifically for this. I've tried out a number of different pumps, several, and they all feel different. They do different things. They offer different things. So I would highly suggest doing your research. Create a list of the ones that you're thinking of, narrow those down to just a couple, and research those even more. Unfortunately, breast pumps are one of those things that you can't try before you commit to it, so you're just going to have to go off of what people are saying about it. Try to just hone in on the things that are said consistently about a pump, because everybody's going to be different, but I feel like for the most part, a lot of it is consistent with the feedback. So whether it's negative or positive, just try to hone in on that. At the end of the day, it comes down to getting a breast pump that allows you to empty your breast, but at the same time it's comfortable. Unfortunately, with both of those things, you're not going to know them until you own it. But like I said, just do your research like crazy. Next question is, what is a good schedule, or how often should I pump? And this is going to vary as well, just kind of whatever place in postpartum you are. If you're newly postpartum, you want to pump every 2 to 3 hours during the day, and you want to do every 3 to 4 hours at night at the very most. And after 12 weeks postpartum, you can start to play around with that. After that point, there is no good schedule. It's whatever is good for you. If that means that you stick to that schedule until you decide to wean, that's great. If you decide to cut some pumps and stay somewhere in between, that's great. If you decide to go down to just 3 pumps per day, whatever floats your boat. It really depends on what your goals are with what kind of schedule you should keep, because if you want to exclusively give breast milk, you do need to regularly be pumping. I really wouldn't stray away from every 3 to 4 hours if you want to exclusively give breast milk. There are those moms who oversupply so they can afford to go longer in between, but for the normal average woman, an oversupply isn't common. So I would say every 3 to 4 hours, I would stick to that around the clock. I will say that at 6 months, I drop my middle of the night pump. You're just going to have to see what works with you. If you find that dropping pumps is starting to affect your supply, just add them back in and slowly play around with it. It's really going to have to be trial and error. But I mean, if you have no problem with supplementing, or you eventually want to wean onto formula or stuff like that, then like I said, you can do whatever you feel is most comfortable for your pumping schedule. Next up is, when should I change parts? Now, with exclusively pumping, it can be a little tricky, and it does kind of depend on what pump you have, because all of them have different parts and it can be kind of confusing. But basically, the number one thing that you want to keep an eye on is your membrane. Some of them have duck bills, other ones have like a connector and a flap, so you just want to keep an eye on them. You want to make sure that they're nice and taut to keep that suction. And just kind of like a rule in the EP community, it's between like 4 to 8 weeks to replace those. Anything other than those membranes you don't need to replace unless they get damaged or they're not working properly anymore. The next to last question is, what is my correct flange size? And that again is going to be a super personal answer. Every woman is completely different in their flange size. I will link to a Google Doc down below that has a whole bunch of information on flange sizing. It also includes an infographic that is super helpful in sizing. But I would recommend that if you're not comfortable doing it with yourself or you want a second opinion, to join either Breast Bottle and Beyond on Facebook. I will also have that linked, or you can email me and I can help you out. But I know not everybody is like super comfortable with that kind of thing. So like I said, check out the Google Doc if you want to do it yourself. But basically you want your nipple to be able to freely move in the flange without rubbing on the sides, but you also don't want a ton of extra skin. So along with suction, it's a very delicate balance with flange size. You want enough of your nipple to be in there and being stimulated. If you go too big, you can not be stimulated and you're going to get soreness all over the extra breast tissue that's in there. But if you go too tight, it's going to really not do anything other than cause you pain because your nipple is just rubbing and it's going to hurt. So like I said, it's a delicate balance, but you will find it. Don't be afraid to ask. There's tons of women who do it, and it's better for you to get the correct flange size than to suffer in silence. But it can be a huge key in the comfort and the actual like efficiency of your pumping. And the very last question is, how do I go about pumping when I return to work? And that I will say I can only speak to again for the United States. I do not know other countries' laws and what their maternity leaves look like and stuff like that. But in the United States, we do have to return to work relatively quickly. Typically, if you do not have some kind of paid leave or something like that. I'll be honest in saying that I haven't done a ton of research into what it's like to pump at work because I am a stay-at-home mom. I've had the privilege of being here. I haven't had to worry about that, but I will find literally as many resources as I can and link them down below for you. I'm not sure of all the rules and regulations, but they are out there for you. So like I said, I'm going to have them linked down below. I would just highly recommend that you go ahead and you print those out and you have some kind of meeting or conversation with your boss beforehand so everybody's on the same page. You're not just like walking into day one and not really knowing what's going on. But trust me, there's tons of pumping moms out there. Some companies are super, super great. Others drag their feet, but trust me, you're not alone when it comes to support. So like I said, I'm going to have a ton of resources, as many as I can, linked down below for you guys. That is all of the frequently asked questions that I have for you guys. If you have any more that I didn't get to, leave them down in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them, but I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks for watching.